Hello everyone, welcome back to my reaction channel. My name is Teddy90. Today we're going to be reacting to the Billion Ant Mega Colony and the biggest war on Earth from Kurzagat. In a nutshell. I don't know how to say the name, so in a nutshell. Go like the video, go sub to them, do all that other stuff with them. I'm not the important one. You should give them all the love and support and everything else before you do anything with me. And let's just jump into it. I think there was a video before this that they had, but I don't know. I don't think I watched that one, but I do know that there was a video before this. Alright, let's jump on into it, my lads.
In nearly every corner of the Earth, ants wage war against each other.
Oddly enough, on the topic of ants, I like how I paused this immediately into the video, but on the topic of ants, I had this massive house infestation of ants about a year ago. Those little buggers are tenacious. If you give even the smallest inch, they'll take a mile. I ended up having to spray the outside of my house with like this insect repellent. Those little like ant tramps did like absolutely nothing. These little guys are fierce and they do not die ever.
Their weapons are what nature gave them. Some have strong armor, deadly stingers, or sharp mandibles. And then there's this tiny and not very impressive ant. But it rules the biggest empire any ant has ever built. A colony spanning continents and fighting wars that leave millions of casualties. Let's take a look at this unlikely warrioress, Linapithema humanae, the Argentine ant.
The Argentine ant. I wonder if that's the same ant that would be in my bag. Probably not. I have like those small like little... I have carpenter ants. That's what infestated my house. I had carpenter ants. Thankfully, the little buggers, save for just a couple who aimlessly wander in every now and again, haven't been back since I sprayed the outside of the house. So I guess it was just like some big weird infestation. Happens from time to time. Kurzagat.
This story begins in the floodplains around the Paraná River in South America. It's a crowded ant megalopolis where dozens of ant species fight for dominance, including fire ants, army ants, and the rather unimpressive Argentine ant. It measures only 2 to 3 millimeters in length, and with its small mandibles, it's surprising that it survived among its buff competitors. Their homes are equally unremarkable. Their
Fire ants are nasty little buggers. Those things hurt. I went to this like weird exotic petting zoo that's in a city near me. They had like a cage of fire ants, and they let you put your hand in the cage of fire ants. Weird place. Hurt.
colonies range from fairly small to very large and can be found anywhere, under logs, in loose leaf litter, or the former colonies of other ants. Here, Argentine
Sorry, I had to cough.
ants prepare their most effective weapon against their competitors' bodies. Most
Oh, they're the guys who do like the mass swarm tactic. Okay, so they do the equivalent of the Zerg rush then, or the Zerg do the equivalent of their rush. Where I think bees do something similar when or smaller insects do something similar when the giant wasps invade their nests. They like swarm the invader. I think this is bees with the giant wasp or just normal wasps that invade their nest. They swarm the nests, or they swarm the people who are invading their nest. And don't even bother stinging them. They just like flap their wings really hard until they almost die. So they heat up the internal, like the thing that all these bees are swarming, and it ends up dying from either lack of oxygen or just getting heated up too much. I wonder if this is what these guys do as well.
ant species
I could have gotten that all wrong. I remember watching that from a different video at some point. So if I got that wrong, tell me I'm an idiot down in the comments.
have only one queen to produce ants, while Argentine ants went all in on numbers. For every 120 workers, there's one queen, laying up to 60 eggs a day. So
Oh, so they really went with a number squad, like almost like legionary type levels of number squad, where it's just gotta keep producing more ants. It doesn't matter how many die if we get this done. It's like you see like the long strings of ants, like making bridges, like to different leaves and things like that out of their actual bodies. Ants are crazy, man. Ants are absolutely crazy.
their colonies grow fast and have millions or billions
I definitely did not have this infestation in my house. I would have been overrun by ants.
of individuals. teams of queens and workers frequently branch out and found new colonies.
They'd have to, wouldn't they? They'd have to branch out and found new colonies, or else that home colony would get, or the home resources, the original colony, would end up getting, like, all the resources there would end up getting so depopulated. It's like the Phoenicians, well, not really like the Phoenicians, but the Phoenicians are a good example of this. They made colonies. Carthage became their colony, and then Carthage ended up forming colonies, and then it probably would have continued going like that. Carthage would have formed colonies, and Carthage's colonies would have formed colonies until inevitable collapse, but Rome happened to come along and ruin that particular thing, or change that dynamic
But
by murder.
this strategy has a downside. As colonies grow and produce a lot of offspring, mutations occur and new colonies adapt to new environments. Their DNA slowly changes from generation to generation and differences accumulate. So after a while, the ants that left the colony will become more like distant cousins and start to compete with their mother colony.
Oh, okay. So because they become so because they become so different, and then they end up competing for different resources, and they don't really recognize each other as familial ants anymore. So I have a feeling ant lives don't last. I don't know how long ant lives last, but I would imagine it wouldn't last forever. So it would probably only take a couple of years for a new colony to end up becoming incredibly hostile. It's kind of like how America broke away from Britain, ended up having a hostile relationship for about 100 years. Until the Great Wars, really. Britain and the U.S. weren't really friendly until the Great Wars.
In their native South American range, this is how Argentine ants behave. Within their colonies, they are very cooperative and well organized, but they fight vicious wars against other Argentine ant colonies and other ant species. With equally strong opponents on every side, the Argentine ant became extremely aggressive, fighting for every inch of ground. But it could never dominate its neighbors until humans showed up. We did what humans do and transported things around the world by ship. On one of them, a few Argentine ant queens.
Oh, because they got locked into. So they became an invasive species. So they got locked into. Back in their home down in Brazil, Argentina, wherever they're originally from. That looks either Brazil or Paraguay or South America, or yeah, southern South America, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, places like that. So they got locked into like a stalemate here, kind of like how, isn't it, pigs are also similar to this, where pigs came from Europe, but they got locked into like the food cycle. They got locked into like the normal cycle, and they couldn't really break. They're a great species, but they couldn't get past it because there were other competitors that knew how to deal with them. Once Europeans started dropping them off or the Spanish started dropping them off in the New World, they were the first who started dropping them off. They could drop off like a dozen or so pigs in any given location, leave, and then come back 10 years, and there'd be a couple thousand pigs. And now pigs are taking over the entire damn place. Same thing with hippos. Hippos, they got locked into they got locked into their place in Africa. Africa's one of the hardest places in the world to actually survive and thrive. They got locked into their like role in Africa, and then there are examples of hippos escaping, and there are different hippo enclaves places, and they're completely destroying the natural fauna and things like that because they can just outcompete them. They're just better because they evolved in a place that was so much harsher and there's so much more against them. So when they go to a place that had nothing that could realistically stop them, because nothing there evolved to be able to stop them, they just become absolute behemoths and being able to do whatever they want.
Hitched a ride.
Humans are the ultimate example of that, but
As stowaways from South America to Madeira.
that's why Australia, New Zealand, different island places that are like isolated have extraordinarily strict laws about what can and can't come into their country. Like Australia, ridiculously is ridiculously strict about what can and can't come in to their country because they're an island. I have a feeling Madagascar has something similar to this. A lot of other places probably don't because everywhere has been very interconnected, but Australia was very not connected for a very long time until about, I think, the 1700s or 1800s-ish. When was the first colonies they made? I think it was sometime in the 1700s. When was Australia originally colonized? Australia first colony. Can somebody explain to me why Yahoo always pops up there? It's annoying. 1788, 1700s, okay. Okay, yeah. So, they're... I mean, they had people there, but they were very cut off from... They were very cut off from everything... From Eurasia and... Or Afro-Eurasia? Is that what it's called? Afro-Eurasia, and then the Triangle Trade and the trade with the New World. The New World would have been similar to that, but the Europeans went all over the place. So that's why places like Australia and New Zealand have super strict laws, because they don't want things like this ant colony probably already moved in, but they don't want things that start destroying their local fauna or their local flora, like different plants that are incredibly aggressive, different frogs and like things like that.
And New Orleans. The Argentine ants suddenly found themselves in a
Did he just say that was Madrid? Oh, Medellina. Yeah, that's on the Canaries, I think.
The Argentine ants suddenly found themselves in a strange world. Instead of being surrounded by deadly enemies, they found only victims.
Yeah. This is the exact same thing with any invasive species. They're not invasive by nature. It's just when you bring a species that was fairly dominant, not the most dominant, because the most dominant species in an area tend to do really well in that very specific area because they dominated that particular way of living. So if you move like the most dominant, they have a tendency to not do as well. But if you move like the second or third most dominant species, or like just even like a kind of a weaker species that has to constantly fight to keep themselves in the game. Once they get to somewhere where like they are by far the strongest, or at least one of the strongest competitors, they just boosh, everything becomes them. It's insane. In my area, I think I mentioned this in a previous video. In the BC region, in the Fraser Valley, I believe, God, I hate saying I believe a couple decades ago, a frog was introduced of some description, I believe, and it ended up destroying, and a lot of the local frog population, toad population, ended up getting wiped out by this frog. I don't have all the facts there. I remember learning about that in science. Probably should have looked into that, but whatever.
Nobody could fight them effectively. Because only a few Argentine ant queens were introduced to the outside world, the resulting colonies had very low genetic diversity. On top of that, the introduced Argentine ants kill up to 90% of their queens every year. Fewer queens, less genetic variation. So, as these colonies spread across the landscape, ants that left the colony were no longer considered distant.
Oh, that would also be a good... I was thinking this would be a bad thing for them. But if you consider them all pretty much your same colony, just different branches of it, and you're all like put off the same pheromones and things like that, they wouldn't notice. They just assume you're all part of the same colony, or at least friendly enough that it doesn't matter. That's insane.
Cousins. As a result, the new colonies form not opposing, but cooperating parties called supercolonies. This is a very uncommon strategy in the ant kingdom. Only a few of the 16,000 ant species have evolved supercolonies. A supercolony was established on the west coast of the USA and became a base for the tiny ant's global conquest. Today, the Argentine ant inhabits the Mediterranean zones of 6 continents and many islands. This one supercolony was especially successful, establishing sister locations in California, Europe, Japan, New Zealand and Australia, forming one massive intercontinental megacolony of Argentine ants.
Wow.
This makes them the largest society on Earth, more numerous than even the human one.
That is incredible. That is incredible. Oh my god. Ants are gonna kill us all. Yeah, ants are gonna kill us all.
But their success has changed the ecosystems they invaded. California is a perfect example of this. In their greed for more
Yeah, he'll give examples of what invasive species do here, I imagine.
territory, the invading Argentine ants have overrun and replaced 90% of the native ant species, including several species of Californian carpenter ants. Although carpenter ant workers are giants, their colonies have only between 3,000 and 6,000 individuals and stand no chance against an expanding supercolony of billions of Argentine ants. Argentine ant workers attack by wiping toxic chemicals on their victims, which irritates the enemy and marks them as a target for other Argentine ants. When they attack, the Argentine ants wash over their victims, clinging onto their opponents in groups and pulling apart their limbs. It doesn't matter how many of them die, there are always more.
Yeah. In a numbers game, in a war of attrition when there's billions of these ants and only several million of you, no matter how good you are, no matter how strong you are, you can't win that fight. A good example of that in human terms was the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union. The Nazi army, by every metric, was a better army than the Soviets. On every metric. Leadership down to troop morale, troop guns, things like that. In tactics, everything. The Nazi army was by far the stronger of the two armies. But Soviet Russia had infinitely more people. And when you are getting invaded, it is, regardless of how evil and honestly kind of incompetent your leadership is, Stalin, you kind of put a lot of those woes away to be like, alright, we're getting invaded by somebody who is arguably just as bad, if not worse, and they're killing all of our people. So it's really easy to get a lot of people to join up. You don't even have to do forced conscription for that, honestly. You just be like, yeah, we're getting invaded, we need all the guns. So millions upon millions of Russians came fleeing at the German line, and while the Germans had a lot of troops, they couldn't withstand it. They just couldn't. Even if the Russians sometimes came in with like, sometimes not even properly armed, they just have like a rock, or they'd get told that they need to go pick up a gun during the battle. Yeah, these types of tactics do work, but they only work if you have a lot of people and you're completely and utterly willing to have a lot of your own people die. They're not good human tactics, I'll say that.
Once the colony is overrun and exterminated, the Argentine ants feed on their victims' brood and take over their home and territory. The Argentine ants' numbers allow them to hunt down and devour such an excessive mass of different insects that over time, some species disappear from the ants' territory completely. Argentine ants don't care about working with the local flora and fauna, they consume them and move on. And if their next stop happens to be human property, they will rudely make themselves at home there too. They forage in dumpsters, bowls of pet food, and sneak into kitchens to claim leftovers.
Yeah.
Not just our homes, our gardens and fields are also impacted by Argentine ants since they tend to hordes of aphids as their cattle. The aphids feed from plants and produce a sweet honeydew which they trade with the ants for protection. Since the ants have no major enemy to fear in their new homes, the aphids thrive and ultimately kill the plants they live on. So, on top of being a major disruption for the ecosystems they invade, they are also a huge pest for agriculture. But the rule of the Argentine ant is being challenged. Parts of the supercolonies have broken off and become their own empires. A merciless civil war has broken out. For example, the Lake Hodges supercolony has been fighting against the very large colony for years in San Diego County. A massive war is going on over a dynamic front line stretching over kilometers. An estimated 30 million ants die here each year.
Wow.
On other fronts, an old acquaintance from the Paraná River has risen from the shadows. Red imported
Fire ants.
fire ants which were accidentally introduced from their old home to the coast of Alabama. Not only are the red fire ants fierce fighters and more than able to deal with the Argentine ant, they are also able to form supercolonies themselves. Now the old wars from their distant home have been taken to a foreign battleground. In the southeastern US, the supercolonies clashed fiercely. The Argentine ants found themselves outgunned by the fire ants. The fire ants' major workers are more than twice the size as the Argentine ants and wield venom-injecting stingers. Even though the Argentine ants fought fiercely, the fire ants were too much for them. After countless lost battles, the red imported fire ant exterminated the Argentine ants' supercolony from much of the southeastern US. This is one territory lost, but the Argentine ants will fight on. This amazing network of cooperating supercolonies is the biggest success in their history. And they'll not give it up because of a small defeat. They will stand their ground against any enemy that might arise, no matter if it's on the Paraná River or on one of the large battlefields across the world.
Ants are crazy. I love all the different discussions about what different possible species could have become sentient if humans didn't. There was... Ants are probably definitely on that list, or at least become somewhat like that. All social species are probably on that list. There was a reptile, or a dinosaur, that was also going down this path as well. I can't remember what its name was. Not social colony, but sentience. I always love discussions of what could have been instead of humanity. That was a good video.
These videos were developed with the support of CuriosityStream.
Here's his ad. I'll
A
let his ad run.
subscription streaming service with
He deserves all the money in the world.
thousands.
Or they deserve all the money in the world. I don't know. I don't know how many people produce this. I'm imagining it's more than one because the production value is out of this world. So congrats to these guys.
Documentaries and non-fiction titles. Kurzgesagt viewers can visit CuriosityStream
Kurzgesagt.
of documentaries and non-fiction titles. Kurzgesagt viewers can visit
Kurzgesagt. Okay.
curiositystream.com/Kurzgesagt to get a free 31-day trial to watch films like Big World in a Small Garden, a documentary that takes a close look at the world of insects around us, or other documentaries by the likes of Stephen Hawking, David Attenborough, and many more, all available for offline viewing. Once your trial is over, the subscription is only $2.99 a month. CuriosityStream was founded by the same people who started the Discovery Channel, with documentaries spanning science, nature, history, technology, and lifestyle. It's a great way to binge watch
The Discovery Channel. So what you're talking about? I struck Riders or whatever the show. No, that's History Channel. You're right. Does Discovery Channel still do all that weird? Reality TV crap.
fun videos
'Cause I know the History Channel does. The History Channel.
while accidentally learning things. Thank you so
Accidentally learning thing. That's my least favorite thing to do.
much to our friends at CuriosityStream for supporting our ants obsession and making ambitious projects like this possible. Stay tuned for part 3 and visit curiositystream.com/Kurzgesagt for your free trial.
Alright, that was a great video. If you liked what you saw, well, first off, go like their video, go sub to them. They deserve all the love and support in the world that they could possibly get. They're great. They produce great videos every time. I don't think I've ever been disappointed in one of their videos. If you liked my... I'm going to change it to commentary. If you liked my commentary on this, I wouldn't really say a react. Well, if you liked my commentary on this, give me a like, give me a sub, go join my Discord, and go join my Twitch. Apart from that, I've been me, you've been you, love, butts, and happiness, and all that other good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. If you guys have any comments or things that you think I could do better, or anything like that, please, please, please leave them in the comments. I know likes and dislikes are like a good, easy way to show that, but I would rather have... I'd rather have constructive criticism in the comments to know what I'm doing right, or what I'm doing wrong. If there's anything I could do better, I would appreciate that. But... bye. I'll see you in the next video. Oh, if you have any other videos to suggest I commentate on, please fire away down at the bottom. I love learning new things, so fire away.